Ed, I just want to tell you, I just wanted to show you in detail how I experience eclipses from the energy field point of view. This is something I've been taught by my granddad, and it is inherited in our family. The understanding of how energy manifests into matter and then unmanifests back into pure energy. That is without manifestation of light or form or weight or anything like that. So basically it's like this is the earth and this is the sun. And from the human point of view, from our point of view, from our energy field point of view, we're standing on the earth here, and the sun is moving above us, as are the planets and stars and everything. It's all spinning over us. But the center of manifestation of life on earth is the sun, because the sun is giving everything in our realm the ability to make food, the plants, photosynthesis and everything. It's all happening because of the sun. And the sun is on this orbit, Ed. And now, because the sun is on this orbit, Ed, since the beginning of time, there is an energy field, Ed, that forms like this. Now, just imagine, Ed, that the earth is also space. Because space goes right through the earth, right through wood, stone, everything. Space is space. It contains everything in it. So there's this field, Ed, this magnetic field that's going through everything, and it reaches a point, Ed. Just like a pinhole camera has a point through which light goes and creates an image outside. So there is a point at this magnetic field, Ed, that we're in. It has this point, like a pinhole camera. And Ed, you can see this point because it's that place where right eye and left eye vision converge. When you close your eyes, the black dot that you see, some call it the third eye, whatever, but there's a black dot that you see. It's the converging of the right eye and the left eye manifestation is there. And what happens, Ed, is that this light manifested field that is being ruled by the sun, because this is the highest concentration of light, because actually it's it is the highest power point of this field. But Ed, it's all being generated out from here. This is the highest point of manifestation, manifested reality. But this is unmanifest, Ed. And what happens, Ed, is from here is where all this starts. It comes out like this, okay? And that's how our realm exists. And from here, Ed, what happens is this whole thing gets inversed. By inversed, I mean, Ed, now if you show a ray of light through a pinhole camera, a ray coming from here, let's say ray A, will turn out to be on the other side there, the inverse of this. And a ray B from here will come out that way, the inverse, right? This is why, Ed, everything manifests in our realm. Actually, it's got its shadow side or inverse side, like its mirror image, Ed, mirror image. So this point, Ed, is called Rahu in Indian astrology, and I'm not an Indian astrologer and I don't know anything about it, but I know that it's called Rahu, this point. And Ed, from here, the energy implodes, because now there's no light. It's pure potent energy, and Ed, it goes smaller and smaller and smaller. And there is the smallest point, which is called Mahakal. Because this smallest point, Ed, is actually the biggest point. So this is the point, Ed, of zero, and it's also the point of, it's zero, and it's also all the zeros you can imagine. It is the center and it is the circumference. But this is where, Ed, this starts to become the sun. This is the point of least manifestation and the highest energy. That is the point of the highest manifestation, but actually the least energy, because the energy is manifested out and it shows in the trees, the plants, our lives and everything. But this and this, Ed, are the same point, really. Now what happens, Ed, in an eclipse is that this point actually has its shadow thrown over this point. And because the sun is not a physical being but a light manifestation, this actually absorbs light, Ed. It absorbs light. It is not blocking the light, it absorbs light. So what we have, Ed, is the sun actually being eclipsed by its own. The sun is born, Ed, here. So the sun's ancestor is moving over the sun in an eclipse. That's what is happening. It is the unmanifest point, Ed, showing up on the manifest point. So it's like full circle. And what happens, Ed, is that we obviously have nothing to fear. We are humans. This is beautiful because this is like the end of a cycle and the start of a new cycle of manifestation. But this is a big deal for the thugs, Ed, because they are not natural and they do not have this cycle of energy that we have. They have just the light, Ed, and they got to hold as long, Ed, as this static field stays the way it is, their life remains. When this ends, Ed, they will end. That's just how it is. So, Ed, all of their programming is being carried in the light manifestation. And when this point, Ed, when it spins, in the spin, its shadow falls on the sun here. What happens, Ed, is that this programming, all this stuff, the spin, this magnetic hole breaks. And for those few minutes, everything is suspended. And then when the light comes back on, the shadow moves and the light comes back on, then, they need to get our attention immediately to something of theirs so that they can quickly reoccupy the new the fresh magnetic field that has formed again. And this is why they make such a big deal about eclipses, because they want our energy to be on them and their lies, and a whole lot of lies based on all of this. Now, Ed, it's a known fact that the moon is considered dominant during a solar eclipse, and it's simply, Ed, because the moon is at this point as well. It is new moon energy, and traditionally that's when women are at the menstrual peak of the cycle, of the moon cycle, and that is actually the most potent form of female energy, the unmanifest female energy, because from there out it goes on and becomes manifest towards full moon or ovulation. So female energy is particularly in power during the time when the sun's magnetic field is dissipated for those few minutes. And it actually is very beautiful because it's like a rebirth, a restart for all the feminine in nature. So that's very beautiful, and there's nothing wrong about it. But the thugs are essentially male and static field, light field based. So they can't handle all of that, and therefore for them typically they have seen eclipses as something bad. Now this Rahu, Ed, it's been called a planet, but it's not a planet, and everybody knows that, but very few people actually know what it is. In Indian astrology, modern version, they call it bad or malefic because it breaks down programming. But it is actually incredibly powerful, and it is in fact the only visible representation of Mahakal, or the absolute energy point of the universe, the very heart of the dark field which generates everything. And it's not dark exactly, Ed, it's unmanifest, which is different from dark. It is, Ed, beyond light and darkness. It is the dark from which both light and darkness are formed. So it is that point. That is Mahakal, and that is the absolute point. And the visual representation of that, Ed, is when we close our eyes and we see the left side and the right side interact or intersect, and we see that black point. And Ed, the thugs don't want people to look at the sun with the naked eye, because those who do end up seeing that black dot for weeks and months, and they call it vision scarring, but actually it's vision opening. And it's an amazing thing to meditate on, because that is Mahakal. That is absolute center of the universe, the magnetic center of the universe, and all of that is it's visible on a solar eclipse. That is actually how powerful and beautiful and important it is. And unfortunately not visible in India this time, but I have seen, I think, 3 solar eclipses in my time with the naked eye. and my life changed each time, and they were really beautiful. So anyhow, I thought I'd tell you my version of things.